It was a bright and quiet morning when the millionaire drove down the suburban street. His car gleamed in the sunlight, polished to perfection, reflecting the trees and houses along the road. He was on his way to an important meeting, the kind that could determine a major deal for his business. He glanced at the time nervously, tapping the steering wheel with a slight impatience. Every minute mattered, and delays were something he could not afford. As he turned a corner, a sudden jarring sound made him slam on the brakes. The car wobbled dangerously for a moment, before coming to a complete stop on the side of the street. He stepped out, his expensive shoes crunching on the gravel, and looked down at the front left tire. The tire was completely flat. "Not today," he muttered under his breath, frustration clear in his voice. He took out his phone and called the roadside assistance service, but the line was busy. He sighed and walked around the car, thinking about what he would do next. Just then, two kids appeared, riding their bikes down the street. They were about 12 or 13, wearing casual clothes, a little worn from everyday use, but their faces were bright with curiosity. One of them, the taller boy, noticed the flat tire first. "Hey, do you need some help?" he asked, slowing his bike to a stop. The millionaire looked at them with surprise. For a brief moment he hesitated, judging them in his mind. They were just kids. Could they really help him? His first instinct was to wave them off, to tell them it was fine, that he could manage. But something in the way they looked at him, sincere and unafraid, made him pause. Maybe," he said finally. "I don't have much time, though." The younger boy smiled. "We're fast. We can do it." The millionaire studied them for a moment, noticing their small hands and the dirt under their nails. He thought about how fragile the situation seemed. But at the same time, there was something genuine about their offer. He nodded. "All right, show me what you can do." The two kids jumped off their bikes and immediately got to work. The taller one went to the trunk and pulled out a small toolkit they always carried, while the younger one examined the tire. They worked together naturally, speaking to each other quietly but efficiently. It was clear they had done this before, maybe not on cars like this, but enough to know the basics. The millionaire stood nearby, watching, feeling a strange mix of impatience and curiosity. He was used to people being clumsy or slow, especially when they weren't professionals. But these kids moved with confidence and care. The jack was lifted, the flat tire removed, and a spare wheel was carefully put in its place. Within minutes the task was done. "That's fast," the millionaire said, genuinely impressed. The kids grinned. "We told you," said the younger one. The millionaire reached into his wallet and pulled out a few bills, intending to thank them. "Here, for your help," he said. The taller boy shook his head. "No, sir. We don't need money. We just like helping." The millionaire was taken aback. People rarely refused money, especially when it was offered so generously. He could see the honesty in their eyes, the pride they took in doing something right without expecting anything in return. For the first time that morning, he felt a sense of humility. You really don't want anything?" he asked, a little puzzled. "Nope," the younger boy said cheerfully. "Just happy to help." The millionaire nodded slowly, feeling a strange warmth in his chest. He realized that for all his wealth, this simple act of kindness was something money could not buy. These kids from their humble neighborhood had reminded him of something he had forgotten along the way: the value of genuine human connection. As he got back into his car, he glanced at them one last time. "Thank you," he said softly. "Really." The kids waved and got back on their bikes, pedaling away down the street, laughing and joking with each other. The millionaire started his engine, but he didn't immediately drive off. He sat there for a moment, thinking. The city, his business, his deals, they all seemed so small and distant now compared to the simple act he had just witnessed. For the first time in years, he thought about life differently. He thought about the people he passed every day, the ones he often ignored or underestimated. And he realized that sometimes the biggest lessons came from the smallest acts of kindness, from the people we least expect. He started driving again, slowly at first, letting his mind replay the scene. He remembered the determination in their eyes, the teamwork, the laughter, the way they refused money. There was something pure about it, something that could not be bought or faked, and it struck him that perhaps he had been wrong about a lot of things, about people, about life, and even about what success truly meant. By the time he reached the next intersection, the frustration he had felt that morning was gone. He felt lighter, almost as if the weight of his worries had been lifted by the two kids who had stopped to help a stranger on the side of the road. And though he didn't know it yet, this small encounter would mark the beginning of a change that would shape him forever. The millionaire drove on, thinking about what he had just experienced. He realized that he wanted to understand more about these kids, to see the world from their perspective. There was a story in their eyes, a resilience that was powerful in its quiet way. He made a mental note to find out more about their lives, their dreams, and the challenges they faced. As the road stretched ahead, he couldn't shake the feeling that meeting them was no accident. Life had a strange way of teaching lessons when we least expect it. And sometimes those lessons came from the most unlikely teachers, like two kids with a flat tire who reminded him what it meant to care, to help and to be human. For the rest of the morning, even as he attended meetings, made calls, and signed contracts, the memory of those two kids lingered in his mind. It was a small, simple thing, yet it carried a weight far greater than any business decision he had made in years. And deep down, he knew that his life would not remain the same after this encounter. The days after the flat tire incident passed quickly for the millionaire, but he couldn't stop thinking about the two kids who had helped him. Their faces, full of laughter and determination, kept replaying in his mind. It wasn't just the way they had changed the tire, but the energy they carried, the way they had refused his money, and the pride they showed in simply helping someone. He realized that he had spent so much of his life chasing wealth, status, and recognition that he had forgotten how small acts of kindness could carry so much meaning. On one quiet evening, after finishing a long day of meetings and phone calls, he found himself unable to focus. He had everything a person could want: luxury cars, a huge house, and a life filled with comfort. But something felt empty. The memory of the kids was a reminder that there was more to life than just possessions. He wanted to understand them, to see the world through their eyes, and to connect with something real. The next morning, he made a decision. He would go back to the neighborhood where he had met the kids, hoping to find them again. He wasn't entirely sure what he would say or do, but he felt a strong pull, a need to see them and perhaps learn more about their lives. He drove slowly, paying attention to the small streets and houses. It was a part of the city he rarely visited, quiet and modest, with children playing in yards, neighbors chatting, and life moving at a slower pace than the world he usually inhabited. As he drove down the familiar street, he spotted them near a small park riding their bikes again. They recognized him immediately and waved excitedly. Their eyes sparkled with curiosity, but also with a sense of confidence that was rare for children their age. The millionaire parked his car and stepped out, feeling a mixture of nervousness and anticipation. "Hey," he said softly, unsure of how to begin. "Hi," the taller boy said, stopping his bike. "We didn't think we'd see you again. I wanted to thank you again," the millionaire replied. "And maybe just talk for a bit." The younger boy smiled and gestured to a nearby bench. "Sure, we can sit there." They sat together on the bench, the kids leaning on their bikes, relaxed and casual. The millionaire watched them for a moment, noticing how their clothes were worn but clean, how their shoes were scuffed from playing outside, and how their hands were strong and capable. He realized that these small details told a story of resilience and hard work. "So, how have you been?" he asked, trying to sound casual. "We're good," the taller boy said. "School is okay. We help our family sometimes, and we hang out here when we can. What about you?" The millionaire smiled faintly. "Busy as always, but I've been thinking about you two a lot." The kids looked at each other and then back at him, curiosity written all over their faces. "Really?" the younger one asked. "Yes," he said. "You helped me when I needed it, and I realized that your kindness and the way you just did something good without expecting anything, it really stayed with me." The taller boy shrugged. "We just wanted to help. That's all." "But it wasn't just helping," the millionaire said, leaning forward slightly. "It was in something more. You reminded me that life isn't just about money or work. It's about people and how we treat them and the choices we make every day. You two, you made me think." The kids were quiet for a moment, absorbing his words. Then the younger boy spoke. "It's nice that you noticed. Most people don't," the millionaire nodded. "I know, and that's why I wanted to come back. I want to know more about you, your lives, what you dream about, what matters to you. Maybe I can help somehow too." The taller boy looked surprised but interested. "Help how?" he asked cautiously. Maybe I can support your school or your projects or even just spend time with you, learning from you, the millionaire said. I don't know yet, but I feel like there's something I can do to make a difference, and I want to start with you too. The kids looked at each other, silently discussing, and then nodded. Okay, the taller boy said finally. We can show you some things. Over the next few hours, they walked him around the neighborhood, showing him the small things that made their lives meaningful. The park where they played, the library where they loved to read, and the community center where kids could learn and grow. The millionaire listened carefully, noticing the challenges they faced, from limited resources to the pressure of helping at home, but also seeing their determination and creativity. He learned that the kids had dreams that went far beyond their circumstances. The taller boy wanted to be an engineer, fascinated by machines and how things worked. The younger one loved art, painting and drawing, always looking for ways to express his imagination. Despite their modest means, they carried hope and ambition, qualities the millionaire realized he had taken for granted in his own life. As the afternoon turned to evening, the group sat by the park watching the sun dip behind the trees. The millionaire felt a warmth he hadn't felt in years, a sense of connection that had nothing to do with wealth or status. The kids laughed as they shared stories of small victories and funny mishaps at school. Their honesty and joy were contagious, and for a moment, the millionaire forgot about meetings, deadlines, and the pressures of his life. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a notebook and a pen. Would you mind if I wrote some of this down? He asked. Your stories, your dreams. I want to remember them. The kids exchanged glances but agreed. Sure, the taller boy said, if it helps people understand us better. The millionaire wrote carefully, capturing not just their words but the feeling behind them, their hopes, struggles, and the way they viewed the world. It was a small act, but for him it became a way to connect, to learn, and to grow. As night approached, he realized it was time to leave. Thank you, he said again, for letting me spend the day with you. You've taught me more than I expected, and I hope I can do something to help you in return. The kids smiled, their eyes bright in the fading light. You already helped us, the younger one said. You listened. You cared. That matters. The millionaire nodded, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. He knew this was only the beginning. The encounter had changed something inside him. He had begun to see the world differently, to value people for who they were rather than what they had. Driving home that night, he reflected on the day's events. Every detail stayed with him. The laughter of the kids, their determination, the stories they had shared, and the honesty that was so rare in the world he usually navigated. He realized that life was richer when shared, when we opened ourselves to others and when we allowed small acts of kindness to guide us. That night, as he lay in his bed, he made a decision. He would not let this encounter be a fleeting moment. He would find ways to support these kids, their neighborhood, and the larger community, starting with small steps but growing into something meaningful. The day had taught him a lesson money could never buy, that true impact comes from understanding, caring, and connecting with others, and so the millionaire drifted to sleep, his mind alive with ideas and possibilities, his heart lighter, and his life quietly beginning a transformation that would continue in the days and months ahead. The two kids with the flat tire had done more than change a wheel. They had opened a door to a new way of seeing the world, and he was ready to step through it. In the days following his visit to the neighborhood, the millionaire found himself looking at the world differently. The routines he had once followed with precision, checking schedules, attending meetings, signing contracts, now seemed dull and unimportant compared to the lesson he had learned from the two kids. He had seen how simple kindness, honesty, and curiosity could create joy and connection, things that no amount of money could buy. He started his mornings differently. Instead of immediately checking emails or scrolling through business news, he would take a moment to reflect, thinking about the children and the neighborhood they lived in. He pictured their laughter, their small victories, and the pride they had taken in helping him. He realized he wanted to do more than just remember this feeling. He wanted to act on it. One morning after breakfast, he decided to drive back to the neighborhood, not knowing exactly what he would do but feeling compelled to be present. When he arrived, he saw the kids playing basketball in the park. They paused when they noticed his car, waving enthusiastically. He parked and walked over, feeling a mixture of excitement and nervousness. Hey, you're back, the taller boy said, smiling. I wanted to see how you're doing, the millionaire replied. And maybe I could spend some time with you again if that's okay. The younger boy nodded. Sure, we can show you some things. They led him around the small streets, pointing out places that were important to them. The local grocery store where they often helped their families, the library where they loved to read, and the community garden where children grew vegetables and learned about nature. The millionaire listened carefully, asking questions and learning about their lives. He realized how little he had known about the world outside his wealthy bubble. He saw the challenges they faced: broken playground equipment, books in the library that were old and worn, and families doing their best with limited resources. But he also saw resilience, creativity, and hope. The kids spoke with pride about projects they had started at school, ways they helped younger children, and small achievements that mattered greatly to them. As they walked, the millionaire asked them about their dreams. The taller boy spoke about wanting to become an engineer, fascinated by machines and how things worked. He loved building things from scraps, taking apart old devices to understand them, and dreaming of creating solutions that could help people. The younger boy shared his love for art and storytelling, expressing himself through drawing and painting. He dreamed of having an art studio where children from his neighborhood could come and learn, just like he had learned to express himself through imagination. The millionaire listened, genuinely interested, realizing how much potential these children had and how unfair it was that their circumstances limited their opportunities. He thought about his own life, how he had been given resources and advantages and how little he had used them to help others. A sense of responsibility began to grow inside him. Over the next few weeks, he made small changes in his own life. He started by donating books, art supplies, and sports equipment to the community center. He didn't make announcements or try to gain recognition. He simply wanted to provide resources that the kids could use. The first time he delivered the supplies, he watched as the children's eyes lit up with excitement. They touched the new books carefully, held the paints with awe, and ran to try the basketballs on the court. Their joy was contagious, and the millionaire felt a warmth he had never experienced before. He also began to listen more attentively in his daily life. Meetings that once felt like competitions now seemed like opportunities to connect with people and understand their perspectives. He noticed how colleagues were often stressed, overworked, or overlooked, and he started asking questions, showing concern, and offering support in ways he had never done before. Small acts, encouraging words, helping a colleague with a problem, or recognizing someone's effort became part of his routine. One afternoon, he returned to the neighborhood and spent the day with the kids again. They taught him how to play basketball properly, laughed when he struggled to dribble, and shared more stories about their lives. The millionaire realized that their confidence and determination were shaped by both challenges and support from each other. It was a lesson in teamwork, resilience, and humility. During this visit, he also met other children and families in the neighborhood. He saw parents working hard, sometimes multiple jobs, just to provide basic necessities. He saw children helping each other, sharing what little they had, and learning from mistakes without losing hope. He began to understand that wealth alone did not create happiness or success. Support, encouragement, and community were far more powerful. He reflected on his own childhood and life. He had been fortunate in many ways, but he realized he had taken opportunities for granted. The experience with the kids opened his eyes to the importance of using his resources to make a meaningful difference. He decided that he could do more than just give material support. He could mentor, inspire, and empower children to believe in themselves and pursue their dreams. The millionaire began thinking about long-term projects. He envisioned programs that could help children learn skills, explore their passions, and gain confidence. He wanted to provide mentorship opportunities, scholarships, and safe spaces where children could grow and thrive. He realized that by investing time and effort, not just money, he could create lasting change. As weeks turned into months, the millionaire's perspective on success and wealth continued to evolve. Business deals were still important, but they no longer defined him. He measured his days by the lives he touched, the smiles he saw, and the progress he helped create. His interactions with the two kids became central to his personal growth, reminding him daily of what truly mattered. One evening, after spending the day helping the children organize a small community event, he sat alone in his car, watching the neighborhood settle into quiet. He felt a sense of peace that he had never known before, a satisfaction that came not from money or status but from connection and purpose. He realized that the simple act of helping a stranger had led him to a life far richer than any wealth he had accumulated. The millionaire also noticed changes in himself beyond generosity. He was more patient, attentive, and understanding. He listened without judgment, acted with intention, and appreciated the small moments that previously went unnoticed. He realized that personal transformation was not about grand gestures alone, but about consistent actions, empathy, and awareness. Through this journey, he discovered that the children had taught him invaluable lessons about life. They had shown courage, resilience, creativity, and kindness. They had reminded him that true wealth was measured not by money, but by the impact one could have on others and the strength of human connection. By the time he returned home that night, he had begun planning more structured ways to support the children and their community. He wanted to ensure that their potential would not be limited by circumstances, and that other children could benefit from opportunities that fostered growth, learning, and self-confidence. The millionaire knew this was only the beginning. The encounter with the two kids had planted a seed that was growing into a lifelong commitment to making a difference. He understood that transformation was not instantaneous but required consistent effort, reflection, and care. And he felt ready for that journey, motivated by the simple yet profound lessons taught by two young children who had once helped him with a flat tire. Every day after that, he carried the memory of those kids with him, allowing it to guide his choices, shape his actions, and inspire him to be a better person. He realized that sometimes the smallest acts, like stopping to help someone or accepting help with gratitude, could change lives in ways that nothing else could. The days grew warmer as the millionaire became more involved with the neighborhood and the two kids. Every visit revealed something new, not just about their lives, but about himself. He noticed how the children's laughter and energy filled spaces that adults often left cold with routine or stress. He realized that the world could be transformed, little by little, through attention, care, and presence, not just money or power. One morning, he arrived earlier than usual, wanting to help set up a small project the children had been talking about for weeks: a community garden. The area was an empty lot with cracked concrete, weeds growing through every corner, and forgotten trash scattered around. The kids had dreamed of turning it into a place where plants could grow, children could learn, and families could gather. When he got out of the car, the taller boy ran up to him with a wide grin. "You're early. Ready to work?" "Absolutely," the millionaire replied, smiling genuinely. "Show me what to do." The three of them began clearing the area. The kids pulled weeds, picked up trash, and explained their plans: where flowers should grow, which vegetables would thrive, and how to make small pathways for people to walk. The millionaire lifted heavy debris, dug holes, and even got dirt under his expensive shoes. At first he worried about looking foolish, but he quickly realized that no one here cared about appearances. What mattered was effort, creativity, and teamwork. Neighbors began to notice. Some came to watch curiously while others joined in, lending tools or helping hands. The millionaire introduced himself simply, not with titles or business achievements, but as someone who cared and wanted to contribute. Slowly, the community started to come alive around him. Hours passed with laughter, conversation, and hard work. The children were relentless in their energy, explaining every step and encouraging him along the way. The millionaire realized he had underestimated the joy in doing something tangible, something that created visible change and touched lives directly. At the end of the day, the lot was no longer an empty, forgotten space. It was a small garden, still in progress but filled with potential, flowers beginning to bloom, soil prepared for planting, and pathways laid with care. The millionaire knelt beside the taller boy, planting the first small vegetable seedlings. "You know," he said quietly, "I've never done anything like this before." The boy looked up at him, smiling. "It's easy once you start. You just have to care." The millionaire nodded slowly. He realized that caring had been missing in many parts of his life. He had spent so long focused on deals, profits, and appearances that he had forgotten the power of simply being present and giving attention to something meaningful. The younger boy handed him a small watering can. "Here, now we keep them alive," and he said, laughing. Together, they watered the seedlings, making sure each plant was placed carefully. The millionaire noticed the satisfaction in their faces, the pride in creating something with their own hands. For them, this was more than a garden. It was a symbol of hope, persistence, and imagination. And for him, it was a lesson in humility and purpose. Over the next few weeks, the millionaire found himself dedicating more time to the neighborhood. He started small programs bringing books, art supplies, and educational materials. He didn't want to just give. He wanted to engage. He read to children at the library, helped teach basic science experiments in the community center, and even organized small weekend workshops on creativity and problem-solving. Each interaction deepened his connection with the kids and the neighborhood. The two children became his guides in understanding the community's needs. They introduced him to families, told stories of challenges they faced, and shared ideas for projects that could make a real difference. The millionaire realized that real change required listening, learning, and collaborating, not simply writing checks. One afternoon, he noticed a young girl sitting quietly by herself on a bench, watching other children play. He approached her and asked gently, "Would you like to join us?" She hesitated but eventually nodded. The millionaire spent the afternoon helping her plant flowers, teaching her about soil, seeds, and growth. By the end of the day, she was smiling, laughing, and helping others. The millionaire understood that small acts, repeated over time, could have enormous impact. One child encouraged, one child inspired, one act of care multiplied into many. At home, he reflected on his daily experiences. He realized that his business life, while still important, had become a tool rather than the center of his existence. He had discovered that true fulfillment came from engaging with real people, witnessing progress, and being part of a community. He began writing notes and ideas for long-term projects, educational scholarships, mentorship programs, safe spaces for creative work, and opportunities for children to develop their skills. The millionaire also began to notice changes in himself that went beyond action. He was more patient, more empathetic, and more willing to understand people without judgment. He listened more, observed more, and acted with intention. His interactions with colleagues, friends, and family became deeper and more meaningful. He no longer measured success solely in wealth or recognition, but in impact, growth, and connection. One evening, as he sat in the small community garden with the two kids, they watched the sunset together. The air was warm, filled with the scent of flowers and earth. The millionaire spoke quietly. "You've shown me something I didn't know I was missing. It's not about giving money, it's about giving time, attention, and care. And seeing what you do every day, it's inspiring." The taller boy smiled. "We just do what we can. But we're glad you're here now." The younger boy added, "It's fun when more people care. You make it better for everyone." The millionaire nodded, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. He realized that his life had shifted. He was no longer just an observer of success and wealth, but an active participant in change. He had discovered a purpose that gave his life meaning beyond material achievement. As the days went by, more community members joined in. Neighbors helped plant, paint, and organize. Parents started volunteering. Children learned skills from each other, and a sense of pride and belonging spread. The millionaire's presence encouraged participation, but he never sought praise or recognition. He wanted the focus to remain on the community, the children, and the impact they could create together. Through this work, he began to notice another transformation in himself: humility. He realized that no matter how much he had achieved in business, he still had so much to learn from people who had far less materially but far more courage, creativity, and heart. He understood that leadership was not about control or authority. It was about listening, learning, and supporting others to achieve their potential. The children continued to teach him lessons daily. Their curiosity, honesty, and resilience reminded him that life's greatest treasures were often invisible: compassion, empathy, and the courage to act despite limitations. They had changed his perspective entirely, showing him that even small contributions could ripple outward to create lasting change. By the end of the season, the community garden was thriving. Vegetables grew, flowers bloomed, and children ran freely, learning and laughing together. The millionaire walked through the space, observing the energy, the joy, and the pride. He felt a quiet satisfaction that was deeper than any financial gain he had ever experienced. He had helped cultivate not just plants, but hope, growth, and a sense of possibility for the future. That night, he returned home feeling transformed. He understood that his life's purpose was no longer just personal success. It was about using his resources, time, and energy to empower others. The two children with the flat tire had opened his eyes to a world he had ignored, and he had embraced it fully. He knew that this was only the beginning, that there were more projects, more children, and more communities that could benefit from attention, care, and support. As he lay in bed that night, he reflected on the journey so far. From a chance encounter with two kind children, he had learned lessons that would guide him for the rest of his life. He realized that the true measure of wealth was not in possessions or status, but in the lives one touched, the hope one inspired, and the love one shared. The days had grown longer, warmer, and brighter in the neighborhood. The small community garden was thriving. Children's laughter echoed through the streets, and neighbors were more connected than ever before. The millionaire had become a familiar figure, not because of his wealth or status, but because of his presence, willingness to work alongside the children, and genuine care for their lives. One morning, he arrived early, as he often did, carrying a box filled with seeds, gardening tools, and books he had collected for the local library. The two kids were already waiting, excited to start the day's work. Their energy was contagious, and he smiled, feeling a joy he hadn't experienced in years. "Good morning," the taller boy called out. "Morning," the millionaire replied, setting down the box. "Ready to make today great?" "Always," the younger boy said, bouncing on his feet. They began by planting new flowers and vegetables in the community garden, the millionaire kneeling in the soil beside the children. He noticed how much pride they took in every small task, measuring the distance between plants, making sure the soil was just right, and checking each seed carefully. He had once thought that work was only valuable if it produced financial gain, but now he realized that the joy, learning, and connection that came from doing something meaningful were far more important. As they worked, neighbors came by to help. Some brought tools, others brought snacks, and many simply came to chat and watch the progress. The garden had become a gathering place for the entire community, a space where children and adults could learn from each other, share ideas, and support one another. The millionaire noticed the subtle changes in the neighborhood: fences repaired, sidewalks swept, and walls painted with colorful murals. It was as if the spirit of care and collaboration was spreading, reaching people who had once felt isolated or overlooked. After a few hours of planting, the millionaire and the kids took a break, sitting on a bench to drink water and rest. The taller boy looked up at him. "Do you ever think about how different things were before you came?" The millionaire nodded slowly. "I do. And I think about how much I've learned from you two and everyone here. You've taught me lessons I couldn't have learned anywhere else." The younger boy smiled. "We just do what we can. But it's fun when you're with us. You make it better." The millionaire felt a warmth in his chest that words could not describe. He realized that the impact he was making was not just about providing resources or organizing projects. It was about showing up, caring, and connecting with people in a way that acknowledged their humanity. He had spent so many years chasing success without meaning, and now he understood that the real success lay in helping others grow, thrive, and feel valued. Over the next few weeks, he expanded his efforts. He partnered with local schools to provide tutoring, mentorship programs, and creative workshops. He hired professionals to offer guidance in science, art, and sports, but he remained involved personally, volunteering his time, sharing experiences, and encouraging children to dream big. The two kids with the flat tire were always by his side, leading the way, introducing him to their friends, and showing him the areas where help was most needed. One afternoon, the millionaire visited the library, bringing with him boxes of new books and art supplies. The children gathered around, eyes wide with excitement. Some were shy at first, but when he began reading stories aloud, their curiosity and engagement grew. He encouraged them to ask questions, think critically, and imagine possibilities beyond what they had known. During a quiet moment, the taller boy asked, "Do you think we'll ever have a place where everyone can learn and create, without worrying about money or space?" The millionaire smiled. "We can make that happen. It will take time and effort, but if we work together, it's possible." The younger boy's eyes lit up. "Really? You'd help with that?" "Of course," he said. "I want to see all of you succeed and grow, and I want to make sure other kids, not just here but everywhere, have a chance to explore, learn, and dream." The days turned into months, and the impact of their combined efforts became visible. Children were more confident, schools had more resources, and parents felt supported and inspired to contribute. The community garden had expanded, featuring flowers, vegetables, and small creative spaces where children could paint and write. The neighborhood had transformed into a place of learning, growth, and collaboration, where every small act of kindness multiplied into a larger effect. The millionaire noticed changes in himself, too. He was no longer the hurried, impatient man obsessed with schedules and meetings. He approached life with patience, humility, and empathy. He measured success by the positive change he could bring, the relationships he nurtured, and the opportunities he helped create. He had learned that wealth, when paired with care and intentional action, could create lasting impact. One evening, he returned to the garden to find the two kids planting the last of the season's flowers. The taller boy looked up. "We finished the flowers today. The garden looks amazing, doesn't it?" The millionaire knelt beside them, examining the vibrant colors, the neatly arranged rows and the small pathways lined with stones. "It looks beautiful," he said. "But it's not just the garden. It's everything you've done, everything we've built together. You've all made this place come alive." The younger boy grinned. "It's fun when everyone helps. And we're glad you stayed with us." The millionaire's eyes filled with emotion. "You've changed me more than you know. I thought I was helping, but really, you've taught me so much about life, kindness, and what truly matters. I'll never forget this." As night fell, the neighborhood settled into quiet, but the garden remained alive with possibilities. The millionaire walked home, reflecting on the journey that had begun with a flat tire and two children's willingness to help a stranger. He realized that life was unpredictable, and sometimes the smallest moments could spark the biggest transformations. Weeks later, he returned to the neighborhood for a special celebration. The garden had grown, the children had learned new skills, and the community had flourished. Families, neighbors, and local leaders gathered to see the progress and share their appreciation. The millionaire watched as the children proudly explained their projects, showcased their artwork, and talked about the lessons they had learned. He realized that the flat tire, once a moment of frustration, had been a turning point. It had introduced him to two children whose kindness and determination had changed his heart forever. He had become a mentor, a supporter, and a friend, and in doing so he had discovered a purpose that no amount of money could provide. The two kids stood beside him as the event ended. The taller boy whispered, "Thank you for everything. You've really helped us, and we hope we helped you too." The millionaire smiled, placing a hand on each of their shoulders. "You helped me more than you'll ever know. You taught me about courage, kindness, and hope. I promise I'll keep working to make sure others can have the same opportunities you have. And I'll never forget the lesson you gave me that day with the flat tire." As the sun set, casting golden light over the garden and the smiling faces of the community, the millionaire felt a profound sense of peace. He had started the journey as a man focused on wealth and success, but he ended it transformed by empathy, purpose, and connection. The children had not only helped him change a tire, they had helped him change his life. He knew that the work was not finished. There would always be more children to inspire, more communities to support, and more lessons to learn. But he felt ready, confident that with care, patience, and determination, the impact could grow far beyond what he had imagined. The story closed with the millionaire walking through the garden one last time that evening. Surrounded by laughter, hope, and possibility, the two children ran ahead, excited for the next adventure, the next project, and the next lesson. And the millionaire followed, knowing that his life had been forever changed by two simple acts of kindness. A reminder that sometimes, the smallest gestures can create the largest transformations. In the quiet of the night, he reflected on how one unexpected encounter had reshaped his understanding of life. He had learned that wealth alone could not bring happiness or purpose, but empathy, presence, and action could. And as he looked back at the community he had helped nurture, he smiled, knowing that the lessons from two children with a flat tire would stay with him forever. The millionaire had been changed not by money, but by humanity, by the courage and kindness of two young souls who saw a stranger in need and acted without hesitation. Their impact would live on in him, in the neighborhood, and in the countless lives touched by the garden, the mentorship, and the hope they had inspired.